Hey guys, well I watched this movie yesterday that was released by Universal, straight to DVD though, and I thought I'd do a review on it. Okay, and the movie is Werewolf the Beast Among Us. And see, it's got the Blu-ray DVD combo pack deal, got it Best Buy. And of course I know the whole background story about this movie, the reason why it was made. The reason why it was made was because it was originally intended to be a sequel to the remake of The Wolfman, which I also have right here. And I know about this movie. I for one actually did like this movie. I know it was panned by critics, and I know it did bad at the box office, but I still liked it. Anyway, well, like I just mentioned, that whole thing that this was originally intended to be a sequel, but because The Wolfman bombed at the box office, so they just canceled the whole sequel, and so instead made this movie into a reboot. So it's actually not connected to The Wolfman. You don't have to see The Wolfman to see this movie. It's its own thing. Of course, obviously from Universal, since they were releasing the classic monsters, Frankenstein, Dracula, the Wolfman, Creature from the Black Lagoon, the Mummy, the Invisible Man. So, obviously this is based off of the Wolfman. I for one thought this was a pretty cool werewolf movie. Of course, not the best werewolf movie I've ever seen. It's not the best one I've ever seen. Well, it's definitely a cool one. It's about these team of hunters that basically have been hunting werewolves for years. They've gone from town to town killing werewolves, and when they go into this town, this local town in Romania, that's where this movie was filmed, by the way, this young boy who was working as a as a as a doctor. Well, he's in school right now to be a doctor, so he wants to join the hunters, but they don't think they can use him though. So he's trying to prove they can use him. So he's tries to help them trap this beast that's terrorizing their town. But for one thing, the beast in this movie, as they call it, they don't really call it the werewolf. Of course, they have called it the werewolf, but they normally just call it the beast in this movie. Sorry, but as this movie goes on, we get a little bit more development in this beast. We see that things like a human that's not like your average ordinary werewolf. I'm gonna admit one thing, that the design of the werewolf was a little unoriginal. So even though I thought this was cool, but it did have its problems. And the reason why I thought it was unoriginal looking is because it just looked like it was just one of the Lycans from the Underworld series. So it's as if they just took one of the Lycan suits and used it in this movie. But I doubt they actually did that. So I'm sure they actually made the suits. And I do know that the werewolf was a guy in a suit. However, they did render it with some CGI. There was some CGI werewolves. There was a guy in a suit, because I watched the making of. And the CGI, I kind of could admit, was a little sketchy. There was some bad CGI in it. However, there was actually some decent CGI for a movie like this. I mean, I'm not expecting groundbreaking CGI in this movie, because it's only straight to DVD, so they didn't have a budget to have great CGI. I mean, this movie also had good acting. There was good performance by Ed Quinn, Stephen Ray, Stephen Bauer. So the acting in this movie was good. So that's an upsize for that. And the gore effects were also really good. I also mentioned that this movie was originally intended to be a sequel. You kind of could tell that because it's set in that same time period as The Wolfman, the remake of The Wolfman. We're not given a specific year though for this movie. Okay. So I also thought since this movie is not really 100% horror movie. It's more of an action movie. I'm gonna say that. Like, so it was sort of like the Mummy, the Brandon Fraser Mummy movies, since those weren't really horror movies. They were more action movies. Like, so we had, like, hunters trying to, like, kill this beast. We have them trying to set up in traps. They were using their weapons, like they had revolvers, they had crossbows, flamethrowers, and had one guy that was using daggers. He was like a master at as daggers, like a swordsman kind of character. Another thing I also liked how this movie kept you in suspense, made you keep guessing. Maybe this guy's the Wolfman, or maybe he's the Wolfman. Of course, I'm going to admit that when you find out who it is, it's definitely someone you can guess. I'm not going to spoil who it is because I'm just not that kind of person. I'm just not the kind of person that would spoil this kind of thing. I'm also going to admit that, like, during the end of this movie, about like the last 15 minutes, there was something around the end that I thought was unnecessary. But again, I'm not going to say what it is. But if you want to know, though, just ask me. Leave it in the comments section down there, and I'll be glad to say what it is. I mean, I'm not going to say in this review because, like I just said, I'm not that kind of person that spoils it. It's a spoiler, and I'm not going to do it. And of course, since, like I mentioned, that this is based off of the Wolfman, it's going to have a love story in it, just like the classic ones. This movie had a love story. The classic Lon Chaney Jr. movies had some love stories put in there. So this had a love story mixed right into it. And, like, I just thought this movie was overall a cool movie. I mean, downfalls was like some sketchy CGI, like some. I'm also gonna admit there was also some like bad CGI lightning scene that was unnecessary as well, because like you just see lightning just for like a few seconds. It was as if they just threw right in there just to make the movie just like 5 seconds, a little bit longer. So that really didn't really serve a purpose being in the movie. I mean, of course, this movie was not perfect. Was good overall. Another story element, I actually realized I forgot to say, like since I just mentioned there's this werewolf attack in this town, like we also know that the virus that, since you obviously know through werewolf movies that if a werewolf bites you, you become one, just like a vampire. So like this werewolf is this virus, as they mentioned in the movie, is like spreading around through people. So there's more than one werewolf in this movie. There's not just one. There's more. In the opening sequence, I also liked. It's like an origin story for our main hunter, played by Ed Quinn. So overall, this was a pretty good movie. It was worth seeing. I recommend it. I'm sure it's going to get a mixed response. Since I just mentioned it has its problems that I've named. Like, I'm pretty sure there's going to be people who don't like this movie, but pretty sure there's going to be people who like this movie. This movie was also from the director of Hitcher 2 and Joyride 2. It's, what's his name again? Louis Morna. So, like, I thought Hitcher 2 was okay, but I actually did like Joyride 2. And I like this movie. I thought he did a pretty good job. I thought he really captured a good atmosphere, good gore effects, a good cast, good effects for a low budget straight to DVD release. So overall, I thought it was pretty good, and it's definitely worth seeing. And that's all. See you later.